So I made most of my MME stuff, and then what I do is I have these little stacks which I want to just kind of screw around with a little bit, and then I have another bunch of lineups which I just want to kind of just de-chalkify just kind of a little bit and just kind of like replace some guys. So it'll give us a chance to talk about who we have. I'm gonna also work on my bigger. I'm playing that like the FanDuel, the bigger one. So I want to make sure I get that one right. Yeah. But that's gonna be I always feel like I'm so chalky in these things that I shouldn't even be playing them. You know what I mean? Like it's
what do you have there? Because I don't know if maybe you're wrong.
No, it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. So it's like here at the top. I mean, it's got Giannis. So I know you didn't like him, but it's got Curry, Peyton.
No, I actually ended up with him on FanDuel a little bit just because I had too much money to spend.
So I got Curry, Peyton, Paul George, Levine, Harrow, Nance, Giannis, Reed, and Robinson. These are like the most popular guys in every position on the slate, right? Like it's pretty close.
You have no money left, right?
300 left.
Okay, well, you could always. I mean, I think. Let me just take a quick look, real quick. Porter. I'm sorry, not Porter. Robinson versus. Why is this coming up like this? Oh, I don't know why. Sorry. Oh, I'm on the wrong. I'm on yesterday's slate for some reason. I can't believe you still did that.
Yeah, I mean, when we go through it, I mean, I can certainly, there's certainly stuff I can do.
I mean, there's one really big thing you could do, which is just automatically you have the pivot at center because Wendell Carter is not going to be owned comparatively to Robinson, so you could always do that. You could always play
the other center, the 5,200 guy that I forgot. It was
Bryant. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do Bryant.
Yeah.
So here's the things I want to talk about. I guess I don't know who's here, who's not, whatever, but we are live.
Oh, nice.
So I want to ask you about a couple of pivots, right? They came up in some crunches and some lineup things I did, and I didn't want to play them. I wanted to ask you about them. So with respect to Peyton and Mitch Robinson, do you have any interest in playing Frank Nicolina as a pivot against Peyton and/or Nerlens Noel? These are like direct, like backup to starter pivots, right? Over Mitch Robinson, or did you even think about it, or just not even?
I thought about it with Noel a little bit, but I would rather play. When it comes down to that, I'm going to play Muscala a lot, and I'll play him where I want to go double center for that kind of thing, or double saving there. I'm just going to take the shot with Whiteside and Muscala together on DraftKings.
Whiteside, I forgot about that.
It's a long shot play, but it's one where if you can double punt that position. I also have we're also waiting on this. There's a lot of rumors that George Hill's going to sit tonight, which could open up your boy Melodon. But more important, maybe the better play would be Hamidou Diallo. Might get a few more minutes.
Yeah, and the other pivot I was going to ask about is and I talked about this a little bit with respect to Muscala. Is he big enough that Baisley could play the 5? And I mean, there's the direct guy. There's the other guy, the guy whose name I can't pronounce, who people are playing a little bit of.
Yeah, and you know what? They can have that one. I think Muscala is going to play enough minutes tonight. I mean, he's playing almost 20 minutes in the games where he doesn't. And by the way, he actually kind of has even gotten there the last 2 games, even without, you know what I mean, with Horford on the court. Yeah, you might see some of those other guys, especially on a back-to-back, and it doesn't feel like the greatest source of value, but I think I think it's solid enough. It's definitely the best, really, really cheap guy we can find.
Now, for those of you that are there at 12 o'clock, I mean, I like to think that we should get credit for this, but we don't. We remember we first talked about when you saw that Horford was going to be questionable. We're like, we really should be playing Muscala, and us and the rest of the United States kind of figured that out pretty quickly.
It would have been really nice if they would have somehow laid it, would have been like a late switch or something, and we could have still made some moves or something. I don't know. I could have played some Whiteside, and I could have switched him in, something like that. But we can't choose, I guess.
Let's go. You want to go through these again?
Yeah. We can go through it real quick. We can go through on DraftKings if you want to, and then we'll go on FanDuel if that works for you.
Yeah, that's fine. So in the Knick game, I'm still on the same guys. Like I'm still on Peyton and Mitch Robinson and a decent amount of Randall also on FanDuel. I mean, I think a lot of Randall. I think on FanDuel.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about whether I needed to go, like I said, to Frank Nicolina or what's interesting about that is you could play both of them as because they both kind of correlate, Noel and Frank Nicolina, right? Like if for whatever reason they're not running the first unit, you know what I mean? Like both of them are probably going to do well.
Well, the thing about Ntilikina is when he was playing 30 minutes, he didn't do well. Like even
that's a good point.
He was 4 for 4 from 3, and he had 14 fantasy points. You know what I mean? I understand it. Like if he gets there, but I'm not going to do it personally on 11 game slate on speculation. But I get what you're saying. And if it was a smaller slate like last night, I might have considered it more. The odd part is there was more value on last night's slate somehow. But I think that we're still waiting on those other 3 things to really make our final decisions.
So another guy who's been popping up a little bit, who I just hate playing, is Reggie Bullock.
Yeah, I have no interest.
All right, good. And do you still like at all Russell Knox from earlier?
I think that he's a really, really, really sneaky play. He'll be in some of my long shot stuff, but I think for the most part, I've sort of settled into liking a few small forwards on DraftKings now. I like Oubre a lot. I really have come around on this one. I don't know if it bites me. I think we're gonna get this guy at some point. So he's missed every shot, non-dunk shot this season. That's not going to continue. It's just not possible. And
no, we're going to do that right now because I deliberately saved 4 lineups that were sort of stacking this Golden State game. And I did this on purpose so that I can remember the first thing I want to do is, number 1, replace Wiggins with Oubre. Okay. And what that'll do is actually opens up 800 and makes this a little less chalky. You know who's getting more ownership than I thought that he was going to at the beginning of the day was Blake Griffin. Well, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I switched over to liking him too a little bit. I just looked a little deeper, and I think in this matchup it does make a lot of sense. You were right, and I definitely am willing to take that shot. But I understand that at the higher ownership, yeah, maybe we worry, but it still is a big slate. It just depends on how chalky the rest of your lineups are, in my opinion.
Yeah. The other the other thing I want to mention, and I'm gonna be changing these Oubre things as I kind of go along, is in the Minnesota game. Is do you want to play? You mentioned him a little bit.
Yes.
You want to play any Culver?
Oh, I didn't. No, I don't want to play Culver. I want to play what's his name? I want to play a little bit of Anthony Edwards.
Okay.
I mentioned Culver as I like Culver better as a player, and maybe it could work out his way. He's not the high volume shooter that Edwards has been, so far, and Edwards is trending in the right direction in terms of number of shots he's getting off at least. They don't, without Cat there, we can assume that he's going to take more of the load. Like the one game without Cat so far, we got 21 shots out of him. So I'm on board with Anthony Edwards as a small forward play on I don't think I'm using him at shooting guard anywhere because I think that there's just other options. But I do think that he's worth taking a shot on just on volume alone. I'd like it better if I knew Kawhi was going to be out, and I really don't think we know the answer to that. I think it's actually more up in the air than people are saying, and I think it's for the same reason that I brought up earlier. When you get humiliated like that, like this Clippers team, Tyronn Lue is the kind of guy who doesn't like. Well, Paul George and Kawhi may not be those guys that we need to win this kind of thing. The narrative, whatever you want to call it. Tyronn Lue is a guy who takes things personally. He's had to his whole life, and he tends to coach that way. So I kind of could see them running him out there tonight just after being humiliated the way they were the other day. But again, tomorrow night. They play Portland, so. It's not like a logical thing to me, but I do think that they may run him out there, and it's scaring me a little bit because I was getting really into Paul George and sort of stacking up that game a little bit with Paul George, not fully stacking it, but Paul George, Naz Reid, Edwards as a little 3-man. Oh, and Batum.
Yeah, the Batum thing is another one that's getting getting my attention a little bit.
The thing that worries me about that is we are kind of like in a bad spot if Paul George does play. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe not the worst spot in the world, but you're paying, like, especially on DraftKings, you're paying a lot for Paul George. And then on FanDuel, you're playing Paul George over Devin Booker and Zach LaVine, who both have good matchups. It's worth noting the way that New Orleans has played defense this year. They're doing a Claude Lane thing too, and they're just going to give up a ton of threes. It just makes Booker that much better of a play. Again, more for FanDuel, but just wanted to throw that one out there.
And would you consider the guy you mentioned earlier, maybe Kennard?
I didn't mention him as a play. I just like him as a real life player.
No, I know that.
Yeah, I don't want to play him, no matter
what. Yeah, but I definitely really liked the whatchamacallit, the activity of Batum in that game when he played the other day.
Yeah, me too. And I would love it if he's out. That little 4-man stack is a really nice little 4-man stack that works out well. It's cheap. I have that 4-man stack with 2 of the top spend ups on the slate, which if you can, that means basically I'm paying minimum cost guys the other couple spots. But I feel actually pretty good about that lineup. I just don't feel good about the Paul George if Kawhi's in at 8,500 on DraftKings.
Now, do you like Hero more? You still like Hero more than Dragic?
I like Hero more than Dragic, but I do have a tiny bit of Dragic interest. I came off a Hero in some spots on FanDuel to try to get away from the mega chalk at small forward, but I actually like him on DraftKings quite a bit. It's a really good play. I prefer him, and again, taking the point guard spot away from a guy, it feels scary to me. Like I don't want to take up that point guard spot. There's so many good point guards on the slate that I don't want to overload it with Dragic. That's just the way that I'm looking at it. I want to play Westbrook and Curry as much as I can. I want to play them together if I can. I've got some interest in Satoransky as a spend down if nobody else is going to go there. If nobody else, we don't get any other value. So that's sort of where I'm at with that one. But it does feel a little weird. I mean, I'm looking at 60% Kelly Oubre right now on DraftKings and 40% Hero, including in my biggest buy-in lineups, Heroes in them. So,
there's another guy who, I hope he doesn't. Hope you don't completely ignore him, considering how much you like him in general. And that's to be very low-owned Jaylen Brown tonight. Yeah,
it's interesting. Jaylen Brown and Kyle Lowry are the 2 guys who I probably feel the strongest about that I'm not playing. And Lowry, again, it comes back to position things. Like if I could get Lowry in the Van Vliet spot, I actually like Lowry just much better here than I do Van Vliet. But I don't mind Van Vliet either. I just like both of them. I just like better. I'm really struggling with what to do I'm starting to feel like Kawhi may play here, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with that 4-man stack that I mentioned. I think I'm still keeping Naz Reid in. I'm still keeping Edwards in possibly, but it feels weird to play 2 Minnesota guys without a Clipper run back, especially if Paul George doesn't play. So hopefully we'll get that news before lock, but I doubt we will.
Yeah. You also mentioned, again, only because I'm screwing around a little bit, Oladipo. You probably want to have to put up one good game before you play him.
I like the way he's looked. It's more about the minutes that they seem to be easing him back after the injury. So I'm just gonna sit and wait. He could put up 45. He could do it absolutely. But I'm going to sit and wait personally. I just want to know that the minutes are there. He hasn't played 30 minutes in the game yet so far, and it makes sense that he wouldn't because of them trying to bring him back from injury.
Yeah.
I'm also very interested in Brandon Ingram tonight, by the way. Ingram and Zion, I'm sort of splitting I'm splitting heavily in Zion's favor, but I'm going to have like 50% of Zion and probably across both sites, and probably about 20% of Ingram, 25 maybe.
Yeah. Hero on FanDuel is becoming extremely difficult to fade.
Yeah, I agree. So what I did was just decide to go for a different build in a couple of my big buy-in stuff. Like Larry Nance is a terrific play, as we know as well. I also think RJ Barrett has massive upside. If there was a game that felt like a Michael Porter Jr. game, this might be the one. So I'm sort of debating what to do with that, but that's what I've got right now.
Michael Porter Jr. today?
I think he's interesting. I don't love him. I don't think it's an optimum play, but if there was a matchup that really suited him, especially coming off a back-to-back, maybe the minutes go up. Who knows? Maybe a late Millsap doesn't play. That's very possible, by the way. We could get a lot of late guys who aren't playing tonight from that Denver team because they have to, they're traveling to Sacramento. So it's possible we could get a Millsap is out today or something like that. I don't see the reason they need to play all these guys. So if that happens, that should open things up for Porter Jr. even better. Not to mention the pace is perfect for his style. What
do you think of?
And no one will play. That's right. Go ahead.
So going back to Toronto, Philly, you were a little not concerned, but you wanted to. You can say Kevin Lowry you wanted more of or something, or?
I like Kyle Lowry a lot tonight. I don't entirely know what to do with it. I just can't quite get him in too many spots. I do have him in a couple FanDuel lineups, but going back home, he's always played well there. Villanova kid. That stuff matters to me a little bit, and the minutes feel very secure. I don't feel like you're losing, like you're risking all that much with the opportunity to to get 50 fantasy points out of him. I think is very, very possible, and I don't think people are building that way today. So I kind of like that as a differentiating sort of way to play.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So did you have any interest again in any of the Philadelphia guys? I
like Simmons and Embiid a little bit, but I don't find myself getting them in anymore. Sort of where I'm at. I like Jokic tonight too, but I'm just sort of not playing him and just gonna have to try and deal with it as best I can. It's pretty much.
Yeah, that's okay though. I don't think that's that big a deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But I agree with you about Randall. I think Randall, Zion are your spend ups at power forward, other than Giannis on FanDuel, and then I think that Naz Reid is to me Naz Reid is a more difficult fade than probably Hero, but I'm still going to be playing both of them pretty much everywhere. So it's not like I'm,
What about Muscala? I mean, who's you like Reid more than Muscala if you had to pick one?
On FanDuel?
No, on DraftKings.
Oh, I mean, there's so different positions, different players.
Okay.
I know they're both going to be similarly owned, but I mean, Muscala I think is your value guy right now, so I'm using the value that I need, and that's pretty much. I don't know. I mean, I don't like if something else opened, and I don't know. I can't find anything else to go on. Naz Reid they're both in like 75% of my lineup, so it's like I feel like I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I liked one better than the other. And they're very different. I just really think that Naz Reid again he's a better play to me on FanDuel. I don't think you need to have him on DraftKings, but I think he's got a chance of putting up a really big game. People might not realize in the last game that he played 28 minutes. He might have played a lot more. They lost by 30 points. You know what I mean? He might if this game stays reasonable, you might see him out there for 30 plus, and it's not like the Clippers front court is anything to be afraid of.
Do you like Edwards on Anthony Edwards on DraftKings also?
Only on DraftKings.
Okay.
I didn't find the way to get him in just because I like the other guys at the position too much.
Okay. Because that's a little pivot I wanted to make.
Yeah.
So like here, like in this other thing I have.
George Hill just got ruled out, by the way.
Who did?
George Hill, which is significant.
First of all, I want to make sure I don't have him. I do have him here. Okay, so I want to get rid of that for openers. So that opens up more Hamidou Diallo, I presume, a little bit, right?
You would think Diallo and Maladone. It just depends on how they want to go. Diallo's been their guy. They've had him there longer. They both have played about the same amount of minutes. I think Diallo's probably a little bit more of a fantasy point producer, but Maladone, we don't really know how they're going to use him. And the truth is anybody who plays alongside Shea is going to have opportunities because he's not a guy who's out there trying to kill you on his own. So I'm leaning towards Diallo a little bit. I still love Lou Dort. I just think that there's a few extra shots to go around. Nothing huge. George Hill's not like a high usage guy, but he's actually been pretty high usage for them this year. Not crazy high usage, but reasonably high. He's been really effective. And it's a lot of minutes. But Dort, Diallo, Maladone, I would probably rank who actually benefits the most. But Diallo is the one who comes more into play because he's the cheaper one, obviously.
Did you reconsider or think about Andre Iguodala?
No, I'm not considering him.
Okay. What about, and this is like a total, like, again, like just weird play, but I was going to look into Juan Hernan Gomez for Minnesota. Just no one's, I don't know if anybody's going to play him, and it's just everything's in play with these big guys in Minnesota. No.
Wait, yeah, I think that's in play. I just feel like maybe reaching a little bit, maybe not. I mean, it's possible the minutes could trend his way. I just don't see the reason quite to go there because, we've sort of like the last game. That should have been the game where he played a bunch of minutes because they got the run. He played 13, but they lost by 36 36.
Right.
And, Naz Reid was still getting the run and he's starting. Or he's projected to be starting.
So we got to wait on this Washington-Chicago business. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to want a couple lineups with Westbrook and Levine, regardless of what else goes on there. The question is, do I want? I guess it's probably smart to. Is Satoransky somehow forward eligible? He used to be. No, not anymore.
Sato is
no, he's just point guard eligible.
I'm using him a little bit right now, but I think I'm about to pivot over to a different play from him, depending on where we see the projections and if we get a starting lineup from OKC.
Right.
That's what I'd like to look out for.
And so you're thinking that well, we'll figure out soon, but whether that Sato is actually that Markkanen's playing.
Not figuring he's playing. I'm sort of just waiting and hoping. If they're going to let him warm up, it's going to be too late to find out anyway. So we're just going to have to hope we get the news before lock, but we're probably not going to, realistically.
You don't think so?
Not if they say he's going to go out there and warm up. It's hard for me to imagine it.
Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to play Markkanen. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And that's one I'm not really considering. One thing that's interesting is it might be worth just mentioning Larry Nance again. I think he's a really good play on DraftKings, on FanDuel. And I don't think that he's as good a play on DraftKings, but no one's also going to play him. And it's just, I find myself in spots between him, Porter, Wiggins. They're all kind of interesting to me, and I'm having trouble, deciding which one to play over who. But I think that the best answer is probably not to do either of them. I'm sorry, I'm sort of going through that one right now as we speak. But if I played Ingram there, yeah, it's let me see if I could play Lowry. I do think there's a path for Lowry here, and it would. Oh, I can almost get there perfectly. Oof. Oh, I'm 100 off of him, exactly where I wanted to be.
There was a reason I heard, by the way, I mentioned, for those of you that are watching the earlier thing that we did, I mentioned might be Aaron Baines, but what's his name is going to be, I think, available to cut into Baines' minutes, and I forgot who it is now. Crap. In any case, I don't think I'm going to be playing Aaron Baines. I mentioned him before. That's the only reason I mentioned it.
Yeah.
So Milwaukee, Miami, we spoke about this, and I just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Did you reconsider Kendrick Nunn?
No.
Did you consider maybe Drew Holiday?
I actually am okay with Drew Holiday if you end up there. I'm not prioritizing him by any means, but I am totally fine with the play if that's where you end up. Okay.
And on the Miami side, Harrow, you like Harrow a little more than Dragic, which makes sense. And Harrow on FanDuel is kind of an elite play. Elite play in ownership, notwithstanding, right? And I guess that's it. I'm not playing Middleton today, but he's been doing pretty well. So I'm going to answer Todd's question. He says, "You guys are great. Do you think the Knicks game is going to go under owned?" So what does that mean? So I do think that, I don't say under owned, but the thing is that other value is opened up that made other guys not quite as, I won't say necessary, but as standout-ish, like Mitch Robinson in another world would probably be really chalky, but when you got Muscala open up at 3K, and all the other centers that you can play, You could, I mean, Mitch Robbins, you could pivot to what's his name, the Detroit guy, just as easily, right?
Mhm.
And then with respect to Peyton, I mean, this is I don't know. This is a tough fade for me. You know, it's on FanDuel. I mean, I know the only thing that's tough about it is that it's not tough is that there's so many good. I mean, not so many, but there are point guards. I mean, you could. There's Curry. There's Westbrook. I mean, there are points out there. You know.
Yeah.
But I do think that Peyton's a really, really good play. Now, did they announce officially that Burks is out?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's they're gonna have to work hard not to play him 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like they could, but that would mean that, you know what it would mean? It would mean your guy Knox. It would mean Frank McLean actually has a good game. Reggie Bullock, you know, Peyton looks really strong for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard. Elf's a really good play. You know, I'm gonna actually have to try and redo my thing over here because if enough value, as I said, opens up, I'm gonna have to get rid of Satoransky in my main lineup on DraftKings. But I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. My main tournament lineup, obviously. Any other questions that we got popping up in there? Let's see. Just sort of assuming. RJ, like Muscala, obviously is. I'm gonna be at 75%, you know, ish on DraftKings, and I have 0 Muscala on FanDuel, not 1 share. So that's where I'm at with Muscala, and I'm playing.
You know, I actually did a little bit of the Muscala on
that's
FanDuel just to be different, you know.
Yeah. I don't like him over there. He doesn't, his game style, you're hoping he hits a couple threes. He's not a rebounder. He doesn't block shots. He doesn't get steals. So I like that on DraftKings. And he's not minimum cost. And there's other guys who are just barely more expensive than him that are just so much better. That's my Muscala take. But I do think you can mix in some on DraftKings. You can mix in a little Noel instead of Muscala in a couple of spots if you want to go there. You mentioned that earlier a little bit. I just like Muscala better. And I will have a lineup or two with both of them together, by the way. Just, you know, my thing sheets, if they're the same price, and I'm sort of debating whether
you can't choose between them, just play them both.
Just play them both, yeah, exactly. One other guy who you mentioned earlier that I think is going to be completely unowned on FanDuel, or maybe not unowned, but underowned. Let me just see where the projections have him. But it's TJ Warren, and I think that actually, you know, he's projected to be pretty popular, which should leave to be popular. They've got everybody popular at the small forward position. They've got, I mean, he's less popular than Nance, but he's still popular. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic core on FanDuel, in my opinion. On DraftKings, it's much, much more difficult. And guys like Mitchell Robinson, who are going to be fairly high owned on FanDuel, be very high owned on DraftKings, which is kind of strange because there's actually technically less guys you can play at the one center spot. And I'm double centering a lot tonight. So just kind of interesting, I thought. Let's see, guys, get any QQs in if you want to. Happy to answer anything. You know, I'm starting to look a little bit more at this Toronto Philly game. Maybe I will run one Lowry lineup with a.
I guess I'll answer this question, Brian. So I don't believe that a Bulls run back is necessary, but I still think it should be done. In other words, I think that Westbrook can get there without the Bulls, you know, having a big ceiling out of anybody. But the fact is that the Bulls guys could have a big ceiling anyway. You know what I mean? Like Washington still is not great defensively. So I think that Levine and dude, I don't want to completely sleep on Kobe White on DraftKings.
Yeah.
But I do think that Westbrook could, you know, I think he could get 70 fantasy points without a ceiling game from the other side, especially on DraftKings, because you know what's his name? Because Levine is pretty expensive over here, you know. Mm-hmm. So Levine can get like 50 fantasy points, which isn't bad, right? But maybe that doesn't win for you. So you could play Westbrook, I think without the run back. Although I think that it's probably better today to do it, and that would be my.
In the long run, I think you're right. I think it is probably better, but I don't think it is a bad thing. And by the way, I'm looking here. I think that we're thinking Maladone is going to be starting now. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's just speculation, but it's sort of going to give me some interesting things to do over here. All right, I have to edit my big lineup because that does change things quite a bit for that lineup specifically. It feels a little sketch, by the way, to me to do this. I don't feel awesome about it. Personally, I'm
What
trying
about playing that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, why should you? I mean, like he's 3K for a reason. It's not like it's not like he's Gordon Hayward at 3K like last year. I mean, like it's
I'm noticing that other people are thinking of him as like looking at him as a very high priority play, and it's just got me kind of I don't know. I guess I don't have that
turn
same.
off like I would say, turn off your TV set. I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't worry about that. I mean, you could make your lineups work today without Maladon. I mean, I liked playing Maladon the other day when he was like 1%. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So he starts, so great. So he'll start, wonderful. Then he'll get 16 minutes anyway. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah, I still think I prefer Diallo to Maladon, to be honest. All things being equal, I guess. Let's see this real quick. Diallo. And I don't think you should play them together, but you certainly can. It's just not the ideal. I don't think it's optimal at all.
Okay, so a couple of guys I want to ask you about. Do you have any interest in Ish Smith for Washington?
No.
Okay. And we spoke about him earlier today. Is Duncan Robinson?
Yes, I actually like him on DraftKings, not on FanDuel.
Who do you like more? I mean, can you play Duncan Robinson over Lou Williams? Probably not, right?
Probably not optimal. So this is a gross just 1v1 switch here. So Hero, I had exactly 300 left, and I had Satoransky in my main lineup, so I think I'm just going to pivot over to Diallo and try and use a little bit of Maladon elsewhere. Let's see, so more news coming in possibly. All right.
You ain't kidding, man. You need to work in more Drummond. I don't disagree. I got 10 lineups of Drummond. It's not the end of the world. I'm doing all right. Doing all right with my Drummond.
Yeah, I've got Drummond everywhere.
Yeah, that's fine. But you know the thing is, Todd. I mean, there's a lot of centers. You know, is it better to take the Drummond for just Drummond's sake, or is it better to punt the center position with Muscala to open up salary elsewhere? I don't know the answer.
Mostly, I'm doing both personally.
Yeah,
that's just where I'm at. But let's see. I actually am stuck here, and there's also that weird. You know, we could get a weird D'Angelo Russell game, and one guy who's just completely overlooked. And I don't. Do we really think Tyrese Halliburton is going to cut into the usage of De'Aaron Fox? I don't see that happening.
I don't either, and I'm really pissed that LN is in this chat because it's this exact thing that's really annoying me. Is that I don't have Bradley Beal? Okay, like when Bradley Beal scores 70 fantasy points against freaking Chicago and I don't have him, it's gonna really annoy me. And you know, I think I've just made peace with it, LN, that he's just gonna be the guy that breaks the slate without me having him. I literally have not a single bit of evidence to justify not playing him except for price. And I totally agree with you. I think his ownership is going to be like 0. And I think that it's very difficult to, it's difficult for me to not have him except for the fact that he's 9,200. And it is a salary-based game. That's best I can describe. I think it's a great tournament play, which I'm not.
I agree. It's a great tournament play. I agree. It's a great tournament play. What I would say is Bradley Beal, I think you want the run back more than you want it for Westbrook.
That's interesting.
Because Beal's going to rely more on, getting hot and scoring. Westbrook, I mean, we've seen this before where Westbrook puts up like 45 and a half. And not to say that Bradley Beal won't, but usually those are the second halves where the team's trying to make a run back or stay in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit different the way that their styles would lead to this. And honestly, you could play Westbrook and Beal on DraftKings. I just think I think you probably do want to try and find a run back. It's hard. It would be much nicer if we didn't have Markkanen. We could feel better about some of these other pieces. Just even usage wise, it should affect Kobe White and Levine. But it's hard to really justify it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm trying to do right now is I've got so much Kelly Oubre, like it's really ridiculous that I'm just going to start playing a little bit of get a little bit of Wiggins in there because I like that game too a little bit. And you mentioned earlier about Blake Griffin. Other people were on that one too eventually, but I like that. I like that quite a bit as well. And Elf Payton is great on both sites, by the way, guys. It doesn't have to be just the one.
The other thing is that you gotta keep in mind these late swap situations at 10 o'clock. So Minnesota Clippers, New Orleans Phoenix, Denver Sacramento. Just trying to think of what's in play based on guys that you're going to have. So the Clippers, I presume that people are going to be playing a lot of Paul George, which makes sense. And they're going to also play a lot of Naz Reid, which makes sense. I'm just trying to think of who the popular guys in the late games are that maybe you'll be able to get off of if you can, if you need to. And those two guys, I think, would be the guys that I would try to fade if I was struggling. You know what I mean? Like if I had them, I think I would try to fade them, Paul George and Naz Reid. And you know what you could do? Like you could probably figure it out, but you could probably play like Phoenix. You're one of the Phoenix guys. Like if you had Naz Reid at center, maybe do something weird like, well, Zion's going to be – is Zion a center?
He's center eligible.
Yeah, he's center. Ooh, you know what you could do? I know what you could do. So if you have Naz Reid or somebody like that, you can then you could go to Bobby's Hassan Whiteside play in that late game.
Yeah, that's the really weird.
Yeah, I like it.
But you know what? I mean, look, we've seen it before, man, with this guy. We've seen him play 20 minutes before and this happened.
As a matter of fact, you know what I think I might do? This is something I don't know if I've ever done this. I am going to look at this late slate here.
Yeah, I might do the same.
Like, for example, I mean, like that's like a perfect thing to just go. You can go double tight end, so to speak, with Zion and Whiteside, and fade Reid, and then you could be onto something here.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, that could be fun.
By the way, you want to get creative and just do something really, really basic and simple that could help you out. Just try in some lineups playing Vucevic over Drummond.
Okay.
There's plenty of outcomes where Vucevic outscores him. You're also saving a few hundred, and no one's going to do it. And I mean, for the season, Drummond, yes, he's a better player, and yes, it's a better matchup. But it's not – actually, I don't know. I don't think it's a better matchup. I actually think Vucevic has the better matchup against OKC. And if we're going to play some of this OKC nonsense, having a Vuce on the other side is at a little bit too cheap a price, in my opinion, is not a bad way to go. So I'm going to do a little bit of that.
You know, I like your idea that this is a good Michael Porter Jr. game, actually.
Yeah, I wish I could I almost want to get a little bit more of it. I think I'm going to get Shea in here in one lineup only. Shea. The other guy who scares me of not having enough of today is, I mean, it's really dumb, but I am afraid of not having D'Angelo Russell. There's just the heat check factor in a team that needs to create shots, and I don't know. I liked him better when I could run back the Clippers, and I'm feeling less and less confident about that Kawhi thing, or just more and more question. I guess there's more questioning of it, but that was one thing I liked early. I liked a lot. I wonder if I have too much Curry. No, I have plenty of Curry. I'm good. I'm good with Curry, actually.
Yeah, we're gonna play a little of this late slate. I'm gonna enter now, so I remember that I have to fix it later. Okay, I'm definitely gonna play some of that. I think it's a perfect spot for Whiteside. I don't know if I could do it in a 10-game slate, but in the you watch the late slate, he'll be just as low owned as in the main slate, like the football guy, like Gallup. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and another thing I just want to stress to everybody else before we get out it, don't worry too much about ownership outside of Naz Reid and Mike Muscala. And then when you just say the names out loud, you can immediately just justify fading those guys. And by the way, the one thing is though, this might take a little bit of the ownership down on Mike Muscala, and it's going to add ownership to the Steph Currys. It's going to take away ownership from De'Aaron Fox and Kyle Lowry and guys like that who are in the middling range, and add more to Westbrook and Curry. Just FYI.
Just because Eric is asking, we talked about it earlier. Bobby, are you still on Knox? I think he's a little off of it. Just I guess for other options, but you could address that.
I'm not on Knox. There's just other options that I like a little bit better, but I do have him in a couple of my large field GPPs.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get out of here so that we can
Lineups.
put our lineups together. I just have a couple of more little tweaks that I need to do, and good to see you. Good to see all you guys on here, and we'll try to make this a regular thing.
Yeah, just one quick thing that happened. Josh Jackson is now starting for Detroit. I think he's worth taking a shot on for sure. I know Sheets doesn't like that guy, but
no, I have a little of him today actually.
I know even with the other guys back, but we see how that guy can put up fantasy points in a hurry. So that's where I'm at, guys. I think we should get out of here as soon as I can go ahead and do that. But yeah, man, I think we have the right formula for what we know right now. Anyway.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Hey, good luck to everyone out there. Oh, Lauri Markkanen is in, by the way.
Lauri Markkanen is in. Okay. Do you want to play any Lauri Markkanen?
No.
You sure?
I don't. No, it's actually a good idea to do it. Actually, it's not a bad idea. So maybe I will throw him into one of my longer shot tournaments, but it's not a bad idea.
What's his price?
Well, his price on DraftKings is, I think, 66.
Oh, that's really expensive. Jesus.
It's a little pricey, but he's been pretty good, and it's a good matchup for him. It takes Wendell Carter out of being the need to play as much. I just wish Markkanen was a little higher volume, and it kind of hurts all the Bulls a little bit. But all right, man, let's get out of here and finish our lineups. Good luck to everyone out there, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.